Okay, so now I'm ready to talk about indentation. So indentation is used in Python to indicate significance or bunch things together. So we really have two parts. Well, let me do this. So if I take a if-else statement, so if I say if and I'm going to use the name of a variable here. And again, we haven't done the first part of this program, so it just play along. So let's say that I have a variable called which, and I did some user input and a value assignment before. And by the way, I'm using the example in the book. The example in the book is to do a temperature conversion program. Maybe this will help. So we're going to figure out, we're going to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, or we're going to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. And so that's what that program does. Now, how does the program know which set of code to run? Right? In one instance, we're going to take the Fahrenheit temperature that was input, and we're going to multiply it and actually we subtract 32 and multiply it by 5/9, and that gives you the Celsius equivalent. If, however, the user is going to type in the Celsius amount, then we have to do a different math to it. We have to multiply it by 9/5 and then add 32. So you can see that I have two different sets of code that I need to run. And the set of code, or what I run, depends on whether the user answered the question, please enter C for Celsius or F for Fahrenheit to Celsius, something like that, right? And the answer to that, so the user is going to type in either a C or an F. The answer to that is kept here in this memory spot. So are we good with that? So in here, there's going to be either an F or a C. In this case, capital. So does that make sense? I am recording a Chrome. Yes, it does make sense. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's just pretend it does make sense. So now I have to check if which is equal to F, or whether it's equal to C. And remember that we do equals with two equal signs. And at the end of an if or an elif, at the end of that line where the condition is, this is the condition, right? So if which is equal to the letter F, capital, it is case sensitive, then I have to do something. And so I know that in Visual Basic, we actually type the word then, T-H-E-N. In Python, we do not. In Python, we use a colon instead of the word then. And the reason for that should be fairly obvious. It's shorter and easier to do, so it saves time. So this is called the header. So it's a keyword followed by a colon. So my if-else statement here is going to contain two headers. The second one will be else. And by the way, there are two outcomes. So how many conditions should I check for? Anybody? I keep looking up here, so 2. Thank you, Summer. Excellent. See, we do learn something. So I need to check for 2 conditions. So that means, I need to check for 1 condition because I have 2 outcomes. So that means I don't have a second condition here. So it's just an else. Because, okay, so let's see if you were paying attention. In here, in this memory spot, in this variable, I can have which one of the, how do I put this? There are 2 things that could be in here. What are they?
F or C? Exactly.
So if it's not F, what is it?
C.
Exactly. And if it's, that's exactly what I'm doing here. So by doing 1 condition, I automatically know, or the program will automatically know which one it is. If it's not F, so if this is a condition, right? This right here, this whole thing. So if which is equal to C, if which is equal to F, then I know that which has F in it and that I can do the stuff for Fahrenheit. If this condition, if this condition evaluates as being true, I know it has an F. If this condition evaluates as being false, I also know what it holds. It holds a C, because those, or it holds something else other than an F. Now, here's the tricky bit. What if the user typed in something other than C or F? Well, if they typed in something other than F, it's going to do the else. Because even if they type in A is not equal to F, right? So a lot of times when we are doing this kind of coding, we have to take into account how the user can screw it up. So we would have to check to make sure that there was valid input here. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, but what if it's what if the user inputs a lowercase f?
That's the same issue. So now the program isn't going to run at all, right? So we would have to have some way of error checking this to make sure that the user types in the correct letters, because we're saying, hey, you can only type in 2, or you should only type in 2. So we're going to talk about that also, how to do that. I brought it up right now because I want you to think about that. What other kinds of input can there be that's going to screw up the program? And so that was actually very good. Lowercase f would screw the program up completely, right? Whereas if they type in an A or an X or something else, that's not going to screw up the program completely, because it's going to do one of the 2, but it's going to do the Celsius to Fahrenheit one. And so that could confuse the user, because they're like, oh, well, I typed in something else. Oops. So we'll talk about how to do that, how to do error checking, and how to make sure that the user has entered the valid input later. And I'm not sure whether we're going to get to it today or next time, but it'll be either today or next time. So having said that, excellent. We will assume a C or an F. We're going to assume right now that the user has typed in the correct stuff.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Um, you said that a header is something followed by a colon. What was the
Yeah,
second?
so it's a keyword. So here's my keyword, or here are
Okay.
my keywords, okay? Because those mean something in Python. So you can't
Thank you.
use the word if for some other thing. Okay, those are reserved, or else. Uh, not or else, but or the word else. There we go. You can't use if or else. You can take that however you want, but you can't use if or else because they're reserved. So that's basically what that means. So those are the key words. So that's the header part. Okay, so my point was that, and we're going to assume correct valid input, okay? That if this evaluates as being false, then we know that it's a C. So I can just go ahead and do the other code. If this evaluates as being true, I know it's an F. Because there are only two valid user inputs, if it's not one of the two, it's the other. I could say if a light could be either green or red and it's not red, we all should know what it is, right? Because I have placed a condition on it. If I just said, hey, a light can be a certain color and it's not red, then we don't know what the other color is, right? We don't know what color it is. But if I say it's green or red and I say it's not red, then I know it must be green. Hopefully that makes sense. So we have a bit here in between the two, and that has to be indented. So it has to be indented by 1. Both what we call suites. A suite, like a hotel suite. That's the code that's going to run depending on, so this would be code A, and this would be code B, whatever it is. And I would write it out on a regular whiteboard, but here I don't have enough room. So basically what I would do here in A, that would be, I would create a variable, say, the book uses the variable converted temperature, temp, and that would equal the temperature that was input minus 32 times 5 times 5 divided by 9. And then I would print out, show the user. In this case, they do temperature degrees Fahrenheit equals, and then they do converted temp degrees Celsius. In the else part, I would do the other calculation, which is the converted temp would equal 9 divided by 5 times the temperature plus 32. And then I would print out the temperature in degrees Celsius equals, whatever the number is, in degrees Celsius equals converted temp in degrees Fahrenheit. And so I have two different calculations, A or B, and I have two different pieces of output, A or B, right? And what differs in my output is basically the literal text that I'm using. One says, in degrees Fahrenheit equals blank in degrees Celsius, and the other says blank in degrees Celsius equals blank in degrees Fahrenheit. So the indentation, I have two suites and two headers. The indentation is important. If you don't, it associates, the indentation here associates with this F, and the indentation here associates with this else. This is called a suite. Is that how you spell it? S-U-I-T-E, yes. It looks weird because it's a capital U. But we also call it, and a lot of programmers will call it, not a suite, because it sounds weird, and I don't know why they came up with that name. But they'll also call it a block. You'll see block statement used a lot. So it's called a block statement. Block and suite is the same thing. Okay, whoop, I'm looking at the wrong undo button. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's see what we get. So again, our Python shell is actually very handy because we can run examples very quickly. Oh, I'm sharing my white screen, so let me, I stopped sharing now. So now if I hit share screen, I should be able to go to the shell. There we are. You can still see the shell, right? Yes, you can see the shell? Yes, okay, thank you. Because I never know what it is that you guys can see, so I ask a lot. So let's just do one where they do the grade here. So I'm going to say I'm creating a variable and I'm going to put a value in it. Okay, so grade equals 90. So the way I would do this kind of if-else code would be I would type in if, and then notice how it turns red. If grade is greater than or equal to 70, and right, I need a colon at the end here, so I'm going to do colon, enter. Notice how Python has indented automatically. So this is the block or the suite that comes after this header. So my condition is grade is greater than or equal to 70. So in this case, it's going to evaluate as being true, right? Because I already know what grade is. If I was creating a program for a user, they would enter in whatever value, whatever the grade is, right? And then it would spit something out. It would evaluate it. But here I already know, so the else isn't going to happen.
Professor?
Yes.
How come we're not, like, why isn't it here like a double equal sign?
Because I'm not doing an equal. I'm not saying if grade is equal to 70. I'm saying if your grade that you input is greater than or equal to 70, then I'm going to output something.
Oh.
Okay,
I
so
thought
I'm
it was
not
just like on the top how you have grade equals 90. I thought you would have like two equals.
No, because I'm doing a value assignment. That's different.
Okay.
Okay, so that's actually a very good question. Okay, because that's the whole point of having double equal signs or a single equal sign. So let me go back to my whiteboard, because that's the whole point of why we use this instead of something else, instead of just single equal signs. Okay, so let me get rid of some of the mess here. Okay, so let me do the eraser and let me erase this. If I was to write it this way, what I would be doing is I would be doing a value assignment. So I would be putting this F, oops, I would be taking this F and putting it into this variable. So which would become F, which the memory spot, the variable if would hold the value F. So when you do a single equal sign, you're doing a value assignment. So you're putting something into the memory spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I was thinking about the first program, how I was like, I didn't use a double equal sign. I don't understand why, but now it makes sense that we were showing a variable is equal to this.
We were saying, yeah. And by the way, the variable becomes equal to something, which basically means in English that we are taking what's on the right side of the equal sign and we're placing it into the memory spot. So if I say grade is equal to 90, what I'm doing is I'm putting a 90 into the grade memory spot. So when we do a evaluation of a decision or making a decision here, we're doing an evaluation of a condition, right? I can't do the value assignment, so I can't use the single equals. So the double equals, this means the two equals is F, so is F equal to the contents of the memory spot which? Hopefully that also makes sense.
Yeah, it's clicking now, and thank you so
Okay.
much for clarifying.
Oh, no, it's actually a very good question because, well, you know, I've talked about it, but I don't know if I clarified it enough. Dang it, I brought this up and I need to share screen and I need to go back here. So here, this explains the difference too, right? This first line is putting the 90 into the memory spot called grade. And here I'm trying to evaluate. So if I was using double equal signs here, this would say, is 70 equal to the contents of this memory spot? And it is not, right? This would evaluate as being false. Because what is in the memory spot grade in the variable? He
Would it be
asked.
90?
It would be
90, right?
90. It would be 90. Yes, excellent. So I want to go back to the example. So we're going to check to see whether the grade is greater than or equal to 70. And if it is, we're going to do something. And what am I going to do? I'm going to output something. In this case, I'm not doing any math, but it doesn't matter what the code is. So I'm going to print not passing grad, passing grade. See, that makes a huge difference. And I use double quotation marks because that is my default when I'm not thinking. That's what happens when you teach Visual Basic for like 15 years. Okay, it's okay. It works as long as I don't have different quotation marks. It still works. Okay, so now that's what should happen. When I press enter, I stay at the same indent level because Python is expecting me to type in another piece of code, but I'm not going to. I need another header, right? So I need to press backspace. And actually this is, oh, I know why. Okay. In the shell, I have this. Does everybody see what I highlighted?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that causes the if to actually be over sum. If I was writing this as code, right, when I press backspace, it would go to the same level as the word if. But in this case, I don't have the little, what are they called? The greater than signs. They're the right. What are they called? It doesn't matter. So I just want you to know that if you were writing the code outside of the shell itself in idle, if and else would be indented at the same level, or they'd be at the same level, okay, at the same margin. The only reason it's not is because of this. Oops, I forgot the colon, right? And then I'm going to print. Oops, I should do print. I should have my fingers on the right keys. Print, and then I'll use the correct one here, failing grade. Because I'm going to do the else if when am I doing the else? I'm doing the else if
The grade is less than 70.
yeah, is less than, it's going to be less than or equal. So 69.9.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you printed passing grades, you did the double quotes, but you did failing grade as a single. Is that going to affect anything?
Okay. So quotation marks, we put literals in them and we put some other stuff in them too. And you can use either one. Now, in Python, it's more correct to use the single quotation marks, or apostrophes are what they're actually called, I think. But we use the singles. In other programming languages, we use the doubles, and in Visual Basic, we always use doubles. And so now you can use either one. The only reason that this wouldn't work is if you this won't work, for instance. Here, let me change this. Oh, I can't change it. I'm sorry. Let me show you an example in a second, because I have to talk about this passing grade thing, right? So it says passing grade here, okay? And that's because this line of code ran. And we see why. Because grade is 90, it is greater than or equal to 70. If it wasn't greater than or equal to 70, we would get the other one. Now, when we do quotation marks, this is bad. Okay, see, there's a syntax error. So you have to use the same opening and closing quotation mark. Okay, and by the way, we could do this. Here's an example. Print Okay, so hopefully you can see that I used the single ones on the outside here, and I used the double ones on the inside, and they are actually literals. So when this runs, it's going to actually show those double quotation marks. So you can either use quotation marks as literals like this, if they're nested inside another set, not quotation marks. Yes, they are quotation marks. Yes. Or you can use them to define the literal. So here, this is defining that everything in between these two is the text that should be displayed, including the other quotation marks. When we don't have nested quotation marks, you can use either one, and they denote the literal that should be displayed. And you can see that by using the double quotation marks, it still displayed it didn't display the quotation marks, it just displayed the text that was inside of them. So what you need to be careful of is to use the same front and back. And I make that mistake all the time, because when I'm not thinking, I automatically hit shift and use the double quotation marks. And then I start thinking about it and I use the single ones, because I'm trying to get into the habit of just using the single ones all the time, because it's more correct. But anyway, so hopefully that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Okay, good. So now, if I was to take this program, and by the way, is this big enough for you to see? I mean, the text here in my shell, or is it
Yes.
hard to see? It's okay. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure because sometimes it's fine. Okay. Okay, awesome. So let's say that I wanted to check, how am I doing on time? I'm okay. So I can take a breath and kind of calm down. I'm all kind of hyped up. I slept like 10 hours. I fell asleep watching TV last night, and then I woke up, and then I went to bed, and I slept really hard on the couch, and I slept really hard all night. I think I was trying to get sick because I think the weather's changing, and you know, I get a cold or the flu, not COVID. And so I was really asleep, really, really hard. And I could have probably slept another 5 hours. So I'm a little bit foggy, and because I'm kind of behind a little bit, I'm kind of hyped up. So I think it's because of the weather is changing. I tend to get a cold or the flu when the weather changes. I got a flu shot though already. This year it was important. I recommend all of you go get a flu shot at some point. This year is going to be very strange. Although you would think that the flu season would be less, right? There would be less people with the flu because we're not out and about without masks on. So that would make sense to me. But anyway, so let's say that I wanted to make this program, this grading program, more detailed. Okay, so I wanted to make it so that it's not just passing or failing, but that it actually tells me what grade I'm getting. Yeah, it might actually finally rain. It'd be nice if we had some cooler weather for a little bit and it actually turned into fall. It's been so hot so long that it's kind of driving me crazy. Oh, so let's say that let's do a grade assignment here. So let's say grade is equal to I don't know, 84. Okay. So, and by the way, this is a value assignment. And in your shell, if I type in grade right now, it actually shows me the contents of the grade. So what is in that memory spot, and see how it says 84? So that shows you that you did a value assignment. If I say grade equals, does grade equal 65? It tells me that it's false, right? So hopefully that clarifies again. But anyway, so let's talk about, let me get some space here. So let's talk about if. So I'm just going to do a couple. I'm not going to go through all of them because you'll be able to see what it is that I need to do. And well, let's just do it here. So my first one would be if grade is greater than or equal to 90. Then what would I do? Well, I would print, oh, see, I did it again. I would print grade of A, or whatever else it is that I wanted to print, right? Then I have my else. In Visual Basic, we do capitals. So again. Now, And remember that the else, just imagine it being right under the E and else being right under the I and F, okay? Now what would I do? I want to now check to see whether it's a grade of B, right? So by the way, whenever we're doing conditional statements like this, or evaluations like this, we look at what we want our output to be first. So in this case, how do I get the word else on the left side? Oh, I pressed backspace. No, not yet. Not yet, Marco. Don't jump ahead of me. Okay, so again, look at the output that I want. So you don't know. I'm going to do grade of A, grade of B, grade of C, grade of D, grade of F. Okay, so I have 5 outputs that I want. So I'm going to need to have 4 conditions, right? So we always look at the output first. Or not output, but what am I going to do? I'm going to multiply it by this. I'm going to multiply it by this. I'm going to multiply it by this. I'm going to multiply by that, right? So we look at the different things that we want to do, and then we say, hey, I need one less condition. I have one less condition to check. So here, if it's not greater than or equal to 90, grade is 89 or less, right? So what would I need to do? What's my else going to be? What would my else consist of here?
Would you just say grade less than 90?
Except for I need what comes before that. You're correct. It's just that you
Do you want
left
that the
something
grade
out.
is greater than or equal to 80?
I didn't hear the very first word. I'm sorry.
Do you want that the grade is greater than or equal to 80 and less than 90?
Well, I don't need to. It's already going to be less than 90 or else it won't get to this spot, right? You guys are missing the
Print.
first word. I'm sorry,
Print.
what?
Oh, print.
If, right? I have to do a condition, another condition, right? So I have to make another decision. So now I have to check whether the grade is greater than or equal to 80, right? And that was correct, but you forgot the word. It's if, right? I have to do an if here. If grade greater than or equal to 80, colon. I know I do that all the time. It's because functions in Visual Basic are capitalized. Thank you. That would have given me an issue. Thank you, Roberto. So look, I'm indented again because this is now what we call a nested if statement. So here I'm going to do print and look, when I hit backspace, now I got to the correct level. And that's because I don't have those less than, greater than signs, the 3 of them shoving it over. Okay, Tatiana, I don't have to check whether this is less than 90, because if it was 90 or greater, then it would have run the print grade of A. That would have happened and it would have skipped all the rest of this statement. But it only goes to this else part of the first condition if the grade greater than or equal to 90 is false, right? And if it's not greater than or equal to 90, we know that it's less than 90. So that's why you don't have to add that second condition, less than 90. So here I just need to check whether it's greater than 80, because if it is, then I know, well, it's less than 90, but it's greater than 80 or equal to 80. So then it's a B, right? And now for my else statement, again, it indents, I have another if, right? So if grade, oops, greater than or equal to what?
70.
Excellent. Oh, damn it. I pressed enter. I didn't do the colon. And so when I pressed enter, it ran it. So I need the colon. Now I can press enter. And what am I going to do here? I'm going to print, right? And grade, oops, grade of C. And I've screwed this up, so I can't run it. Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah, I did. And then what would I do? Because the next one would be, I need to do a D, right? So I would have another else here. Oh, yeah. And then I would press enter and I would have another if. And I would go on and on and on doing this until I was done. And this gets very messy very quickly. So I want to show you the right way to do it. So I'm going to actually close this. Oh, yeah. And then, so do we understand that bit so far? Are we good? I'm going to take the deadly silence as yes. Okay, so you can see that when we use nested if statements, if else statements, and we nest them like I was doing there, that can get very messy looking. So let's do the same thing, but let's use the better way. And that's to use an if, elif. The elif stands for, my watch, else if. So that means that I can use I don't have to nest them. Okay, so let's do this. Grade equals 86. Okay, and then I'm going to do if grade greater than or equal to 90, then that makes my life a little bit easier. Now I am in a hurry. Now, if I press enter and I go back, I can type instead of else, if. That means else if. So basically, I can combine the else and the if that were nested before, that were like this, into one line. And now on that same line, I can type the second condition that I want to evaluate. So if I want to do grade greater than or equal to 80, then backspace, L if grade greater than or equal to 70. Backspace to get back out. L if, I should just copy this whole thing. And I will for the next one, I'll copy it. But I want to give you a warning when you copy stuff. Oops. So I need one more, right? Oh, no, I don't actually. All I need is an else. So never mind. I went too far. Now I don't have any more conditions, right? I'm going to have 5 outcomes. A, B, C, D, E. A, B, C, D, F. Why do we? Oh, I know why we don't use E. We don't use E because F is fail. Although none of the other is D. Does D stand for disappointing? Does C stand for common? B stands for nothing in particular. Can't think of anything. Okay, so right, if I have 5 outcomes, I need how many decisions? 4. Thank you. Alexander actually laughed. Because I said E. So I need 4 conditions. Do I have 4 conditions? If grade is greater than or equal to 90, that's 1. There's greater than or equal to 80, 70, and 60. So I do have 4 conditions. So if all 4 of those conditions evaluate as being false, the only time this else will run here is if the points in grade are less than 60. So that means that if I get to this point, I know that the grade is less than 60. So I can print F. So I don't have to add the condition. I don't need to do L if grade less than 60. Because I already know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so let me run this, and now we should say it should just print a B. Here, I'll change this. Otherwise, it's disappointing to me. You have a grade of B, which is only marginally correct English-wise. Okay, so let me run this. So I'll get back down here and I'll press enter. Dun, 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 dun. Why didn't it run? Oh, there it goes. I know why it didn't run, because it was expecting something else. So it was giving me that extra line. And so I needed to press enter again. So now it says you have a grade of B. Why? And by the way, this is important. And I know that I'm over by a couple of minutes. So just pay attention. And then this is the last thing I'm going to say. It's important to understand that given a value in grade, that this statement here is only going to run to the point where the condition evaluates as being true. The rest of it will not run. It's an important concept to understand. So this code ran to this line, and then it stopped. It did not do any of that. It didn't need to, right? Because I got a true here. This is true. Oh, yeah. This was false, so it did not do this, but instead it jumped to the second condition. It evaluated that. If this was false, it would not have done this, it would have jumped to the next condition and evaluated that. If that was false, it would go here. If that was false, it would go here and say, oh, just do this one, right? But what ended up happening was this did evaluate as being false. Grade was not greater than or equal to 90, so it did not do this. Then when it did this one, and grade, it evaluated as being true. So the grade is greater than or equal to 80. So it did the code. And by the way, in here, I could have a whole bunch of code. Oops. I could have a whole bunch of code. It doesn't just need to be one line, but it did this, right? And it did that. So that means that the rest of this is irrelevant now. I don't need it. So it did not check that. It's important to understand that the rest of your conditional statements will not run once you hit one that's true. It's a theoretical concept that we have to keep in mind, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. That means that I'm doing an okay job. So having said that, that's where we're going to leave it. I may talk about a little bit more in lab, but we'll see how I feel. So having said that, if you have any questions, ask. If you don't, I'll see you in lab. Oh, I should stop recording because there's going to be a lot of dead time. Recording stop.